It's August the 11th, 1953. A sweltering summer day in Augusta, Georgia. The air is thick, and the southern heat presses in on every wall of the modest hospital room, where a boy is born, Terry Jean Bollea. His parents, Pete and Ruth, are working-class folk. Pete is an Italian-American construction foreman, stern but devoted. Ruth, of Scottish and French descent, works as a dance instructor. The family soon relocates to Florida, chasing opportunity in Tampa, a city that in the 1950s is a growing hub of post-war optimism and suburban sprawl. Palm trees, pickup trucks, baseball diamonds, and backyard barbecues. It's in these sun-drenched neighbourhoods that Terry's early life begins to take shape. He's a quiet kid, shy even, stocky. He towers over the other children by the time he hits grade school. While others play tag or chase lizards in the sandlots, Terry is drawn to stories, especially the ones on TV. Saturday mornings become sacred. He's glued to the black and white screen, wide-eyed, watching superheroes, cowboys, and most of all, wrestlers. Florida was already a wrestling hotbed, and on local broadcasts, Terry saw titans in tights, body slamming one another in smoky arenas. These weren't just fights, they were theatre. Gladiators with names like Dusty Rhodes and superstar Billy Graham stomped their way into his young imagination. He didn't know it then, but those images would never leave him. But wrestling wasn't his first love. Terry was a baseball kid, a left-handed pitcher in fact, good enough that Major League scouts came to watch him throw during high school. He had raw power, but what he didn't have was discipline. He was restless, a dreamer. One minute he was practicing his curveball, the next he was strumming along to Black Sabbath on his beat-up bass guitar. By the end of his teens, the baseball dream fizzled out, and the music obsession took over. He enrolled at Hillsborough Community College to study music and business, but he didn't last long. School never sat right with him. What did sit right was the weight room. By the early 70s, Terry was spending more time in the gym than in class. He was transforming, his frame bulking, his arms ballooning with muscle. At 6'6" and closing in on 300 pounds, he was impossible to miss. He looked like a superhero carved out of Tampa Bay sunshine and raw ambition, and when he wasn't lifting weights, he was playing in bands. One of them, a local act called Ruckus, started to get gigs around the Florida bar scene. Terry was the bassist, thundering away under a mane of bleached hair and a bandana. Even then, there was a performance quality to him. He couldn't help but put on a show. The stage was a drug, and Terry was getting hooked, but it wasn't the music scene that would change his life. One day, in a gym in Tampa, a pair of professional wrestlers walked in, Jack and Gerald Briscoe. They noticed the giant lifting weights in the corner, veins popping, sweat pouring, and something clicked. They saw more than a bodybuilder, they saw potential, not just for strength, but for spectacle. They made a call to their trainer, a guy by the name of Hiro Matsuda, a notorious taskmaster with a reputation for breaking rookies who didn't respect the business. Terry showed up to his first day of wrestling school expecting to learn moves. Instead, Hiro broke his leg. That was the lesson. In wrestling, you pay your dues. You suffer. You humble yourself. But Terry didn't walk away. He healed and came back, because deep down, something had ignited in him. A calling. He was still just a kid from Tampa, still struggling to find a place in the world. But now, there was a door opening. And behind it, a future more outrageous, dramatic and unpredictable than anything he could have imagined. Late 1970s, Tampa, Florida. The warehouse where Hiro Matsuda trained his students didn't look like much from the outside. Just another corrugated steel box in the flat, sun-bleached sprawl of Tampa's industrial zone. But inside, it was a crucible. Sweat, blood, and hard lessons soaked into the mats. No cameras, no crowd, just pain. Terry Bollea had returned after his leg healed. Most didn't. That alone earned a sliver of Matsuda's respect. The next months were brutal. Hero wasn't teaching him how to win matches, he was teaching him how to survive. Stretching, slamming, running the ropes until your lungs screamed. No glitz, no glory, just repetition and humility. Terry learned how to fall before he learned how to stand. And finally, when Hero decided he was ready, he sent him out into the wild, small circuits, tiny crowds, low pay, and a string of forgettable names. His first wrestling identity? Sterling Golden. But the reality was far from it. Terry had the look, blonde, bronzed and brawny, but he didn't have the timing. Or the presence. Not yet. He was big, yes, so big in fact, that most rings didn't fit him properly. Promoters didn't know what to do with him. He wasn't fast, he wasn't graceful, but damn was he imposing. He bounced around the southern circuits, picking up experience in places like Alabama, Mississippi and Georgia. These weren't glamorous gigs. He was wrestling in high school gyms, fairgrounds and run-down auditoriums, sometimes for $50 and a slice of pizza. But every time he stepped between the ropes, he learned something. How to pace a match, how to sell pain, how to work the crowd, and perhaps most importantly, how to carry himself like he belonged. Then came a break. In 1979, Terry got the call to work in Memphis for the Continental Wrestling Association, where he was paired with Ed Leslie, his real-life friend, who fans would later know as Brutus the Barber Beefcake. The two formed a tag team and started to gain traction. They had chemistry, energy, a kind of rough charisma that the Southern fans responded to, but it still wasn't enough. Then, one night in the late summer of '79, Terry found himself backstage at a taping of a syndicated wrestling show. Standing next to him was Lou Ferrigno, the star of The Incredible Hulk. The host looked at Terry, then at Lou, then back at Terry. He said, "You're bigger than the Hulk." And that's when it hit him. Not just a name, an identity. The Hulk. Terry leaned into it. He dyed his hair even blonder. He grew the handlebar moustache. He started tearing shirts off before matches. The tan got deeper, the muscles bigger, the persona louder. The world wasn't ready yet, but he was getting close. He started wrestling in the AWA, Vern Gagne's promotion up in Minnesota, and the crowd couldn't get enough. They didn't boo. They roared. Terry, now going by Hulk Hogan, was becoming something new, something powerful, a cross between a comic book hero, a rock star, and a gladiator. But not everyone liked it. Vern Gagne, old school to the bone, thought Hogan was too flashy, too commercial. He wanted him to wrestle in a more technical style, like the amateurs. He wanted Hogan to play by the rules. Hogan didn't. And then Vince McMahon Jr. came calling. He saw what others didn't. He saw the future of wrestling, not as a sport, but as a spectacle. Hogan wasn't just a wrestler. He was a franchise waiting to happen. Vince offered him the one thing no other promoter had, a national platform. But Terry wasn't ready to jump just yet. First, there was one more journey, one that would complete the transformation. Japan. It's 1980. The doors of Narita Airport hiss open, and Terry Bollea, now calling himself Hulk Hogan, walks into a world that feels like another planet. Tokyo is dazzling, a metropolis lit by neon kanji, drenched in humidity, humming with 1,000 sounds, pachinko parlours, salarymen barking into payphones, and the robotic jingles of vending machines. There are no fans waiting to greet him. No one tears off their shirt. But that's the thing. Japan watches silently first. Then it bows. In America, pro wrestling is loud, brash, and unashamedly fake. In Japan, it's strong style. A brutal ballet where respect is earned through pain. Less cartoon, more combat. Matches here are stiffer. Every slap echoes. Every suplex matters. The audience doesn't cheer wildly. They sit quietly, studying you, and when something impresses them, they clap. Not out of love, out of honour. Hogan, still green in the ring compared to the veterans around him, isn't handed anything. He has to prove himself night after night in smoky halls and giant domes alike. Korakuen Hall, Osaka Prefectural Gymnasium, Nippon Budokan. And then he does. They call him the Ichiban Gaijin, the number one foreigner, 6'7", 300 pounds of muscle, barreling through the ring with yellow trunks and a head of golden hair. His finishing move here isn't the leg drop. It's an axe bomber clothesline so vicious it leaves opponents spinning midair. The Japanese fans adore him, not because he's flashy, but because he's tough. He adapts, he learns. He goes toe-to-toe with true icons. Antonio Inoki, Seiji Sakaguchi, Tatsumi Fujinami. These aren't squashes, they're wars. Real black eyes, real bruises. Backstage, Hogan is humble. He bows, he eats ramen at tiny standing bars after matches, still dripping with sweat, surrounded by the soft murmur of drunk salarymen and the tinny pop songs of Seiko Matsuda on the radio. He takes the trains. He learns enough Japanese to get by. He's not yet the megastar, but over here, he's no jobber. He's becoming a warrior. Meanwhile, Tokyo is transforming too, no longer the post-war city of rebuilding, but a gleaming symbol of the new Japan. Fax machines, Sony Walkmans, rising stock markets. Everything's tight, efficient, orderly, and yet underneath there's chaos, a hunger for Western entertainment, fashion, noise, and Hulk Hogan fits that mould. He's exotic, he's immense, he's American power personified, but with enough humility and sweat equity to earn Japan's respect. By 82, the world is starting to notice. A few tapes of Hogan in Japan make their way back to the States, showing a very different version of the man than the one seen on southern circuits. Bigger, stronger, sharper, more explosive. And back home, Vince McMahon Jr. is watching closely. He's preparing to take a huge risk, one that will redefine wrestling, TV and pop culture itself. But to do it, he needs a face, a superhero, a phenomenon. He needs Hulk Hogan. Terry Bollea, battle-hardened by Japan raw from the road, is called to the set of Rocky III. Sylvester Stallone wants a monster, a villain, a real-life comic book come to life. And when Hogan steps on set, standing 6'7", 300 pounds, with a handlebar moustache and arms like telephone poles, Sly knows he's found him. The name? Thunderlips. The scene? Pure electricity. For 3 minutes of screen time, Hogan becomes a Hollywood spectacle, a man-mountain, tossing Rocky around like a rag doll, grinning as he does it. He doesn't just steal the scene, he becomes a walking poster for 1980s excess. And Vince McMahon Jr., who's just inherited the World Wrestling Federation from his father, sees gold. Vince has a plan, go national. Take wrestling from smoky halls and backwater TV stations to primetime mainstream pay-per-view glory. But to pull that off, he needs more than a wrestler. He needs a hero. Enter Hogan. Vince doesn't want the rough-and-tumble, stiff-style Hogan of Japan. He wants the all-American superhero, the cartoon come to life. So, they craft it. The yellow trunks, the red bandana, the ear cupping, the rip the shirt off in a frenzy theatrics. Hogan's voice becomes a growl, his promos wild sermons about vitamins, training, and saying your prayers. He's no longer Terry, he's no longer even just Hulk Hogan. He's an idea. It is January the 23rd, 1984. America is in the grip of Cold War paranoia. Flags hang heavy, patriotism sells, and in the heart of a wintry New York City, Madison Square Garden is throbbing with anticipation. The air smells like beer, sweat, and popcorn. Fans have packed the building for a showdown that feels bigger than sport. On one side, the Iron Sheik, former Olympic wrestler, legitimately tough, a menacing heel with curled boots, a thick accent, and a background in real Greco-Roman wrestling. He's holding the WWF World Heavyweight Championship, having just ended Bob Backlund's long reign with a brutal camel clutch. On the other side, Hulk Hogan, the upstart. the crowd favourite. He's just returned to the WWF and fresh from his breakout role in Rocky III. He's bigger than life, tan, shredded, and all-American, but he's also untested at the top. He's never held the title. Tonight is his shot. The lights go down. Eye of the Tiger blares through the speakers as Hogan storms to the ring, ripping his shirt off to a sea of cheers. Grown men lose their minds. Kids climb onto their seats. Signs wave. The atmosphere is electric. The bell rings. What happens next is quick, brutal, and symbolic. The Iron Sheik uses every dirty trick he knows. He gouges, clubs, stomps, tries to wear Hogan down with old-school holds. The crowd boos, hurls insults, throws soda. Hogan stumbles, sells it like he's fading, but then comes the moment. The Hulk up. The arena explodes. Hogan starts shaking, wide-eyed, finger-pointing. The Sheik is stunned. The crowd is in full voice. Hogan hits the ropes. Big boot. The Sheik is down. Hogan runs again. Leg drop. 1, 2, 3. The ref slaps the mat and 20,000 fans erupt like a volcano. Flashbulbs go off. Grown men weep. Gorilla Monsoon bellows into the mic. History has been made. Howard Finkel announces the new champion, and Hogan holds the belt aloft with both arms, bathed in golden light. But it's more than just a title change. That night marked the end of wrestling's past, the era of stoic champions like Bruno Sammartino and Bob Backlund, and the beginning of wrestling's future, larger than life, TV-friendly, mainstream entertainment. Hulk Hogan wasn't just a wrestler. He was a brand, a movement, a messiah for the kids who believed in muscles, morals, and miracles. Backstage, Vince McMahon is watching it all unfold, grinning. His gamble has paid off. The WWF has its new face, its franchise, and the era of Hulkamania has officially begun. It is March the 31st, 1985. WrestleMania 1, Madison Square Garden again. But this time, the stakes are cosmic. Hulk Hogan stands at the centre of a marketing supernova. He's not alone. Mr. T is in his corner. Muhammad Ali is the outside referee. Cyndi Lauper, Billy Martin, Liberace. The ringside is dripping with celebrity. The match is pure spectacle. Hogan and Mr. T versus Rowdy Roddy Piper and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. No titles on the line. Just pride. Just noise. Just image. And it works. The gamble Vince McMahon had mortgaged everything on pays off. WrestleMania becomes a cultural event, not just a wrestling show, a crossover success. And Hogan, with the headband and the red and yellow glory, becomes the face of an empire. From there, it's a blitzkrieg of merchandise, promos, Saturday morning cartoons, talk show appearances. Action figures fly off shelves. Tickets sell out in minutes. Kids chant Hulkamania like it's scripture. The mantra is everywhere. Train, say your prayers, eat your vitamins. But behind the curtain, the edges are fraying. Hogan is on the road 300 days a year. Steroids fuel the bulk. Painkillers ease the grind. He's smiling on camera, but behind his eyes there's burnout. The body aches. The fame becomes a prison. The business gets louder, faster, riskier. The storylines become soap opera. The characters more cartoonish. And Hogan, though still at the top, starts to feel like a relic of the Reagan era. He fights giants. King Kong Bundy, Andre the Giant, Ultimate Warrior. The matches blur. The leg drops keep falling, but they hit with less thunder. Then comes the dawn of the 90s. WrestleMania 6, Toronto. Hulk Hogan versus The Ultimate Warrior, champion versus champion. The torch is passed. Warrior pins Hogan clean. The fans are stunned. So is Hogan. He doesn't rage. He doesn't turn heel. He just kneels in the ring, holding up Warrior's arm, eyes glassy, as if the spotlight has finally turned away. The invincibility has cracked. For the first time, Hulk Hogan looks human. Hogan clings to the throne, but it's not the same. The world is shifting. The Gulf War hits. Scandals swirl, steroid use, locker room lawsuits. Vince McMahon himself is in the hot seat. The audience matures, grittier characters emerge. Hogan's morality tales feel outdated. He cuts promos about truth and justice while the crowd starts hungering for something realer, rawer. In '93, Hogan leaves WWF after a lukewarm farewell match at King of the Ring. The curtain doesn't fall with a bang, just a slow fade to silence. Hulkamania, once unstoppable, is suddenly a ghost of itself. But Terry Bollea isn't done. He'll return, reinvented, darker, cunning, in a different promotion, with a different agenda. The descent isn't the end. It's just the first act of a rebirth. In '94, Hulk Hogan walks through the doors of WCW, World Championship Wrestling. He's older, heavier, but still a draw. Ted Turner's millions are behind him, and the red and yellow is still strong. His debut match? Against Ric Flair, the Nature Boy, the Icon, the show-off. Hogan wins the WCW title. Big moment, but the magic feels muted. The crowd isn't the same. This isn't the squeaky clean WWF audience of the 80s. These fans are southern, older, and tired of the fairy tales. They want blood, they want edge. And slowly, match by match, Hogan hears it. Boos! By '96, he knows the truth. Hulkamania is dead. The vitamins, the prayers, it all feels fake now. The world has changed. Wrestling has changed. And so, Hogan does the one thing no one thought he'd ever do. July 7th, 1996, the Bash at the Beach. It starts as a tag match. The match is chaos. Midway through, the referee is down. Bodies everywhere. The crowd is electric. Then the music hits. Hogan walks out. The crowd roars in relief. He's here to save WCW, the immortal hero, the face of wrestling. But then, he drops a leg on Savage. Not Hall, not Nash. Savage. Gasps, screams. Trash rains down from the stands. The air turns venomous. Mean Gene climbs into the ring, furious. Hulk Hogan, what in the world are you thinking? And Hogan, sneering, spits fire. As far as I'm concerned, all of this crap in this ring represents these fans out here. For 2 years, brother, for 2 years, I held my head high. I did everything for the charities and the kids. And the reception I got when I came out here, you fans can stick it, brother. He calls his new crew the New World Order, a wrestling insurgency. Wrestling's darkest pivot. And Hulk Hogan, now Hollywood Hogan, is its king. Hogan ditches the red and yellow for black and white. The bandana stays, but now it's shadowed. His stubble darkens. His promos? Arrogant, cruel, real. He loves being hated. He strums his championship belt like a guitar. He cheats, he dodges, he hides behind Hall and Nash. He spits on tradition. For the first time in over a decade, Hulk Hogan is cool. The NWO merch becomes a streetwear staple. Ratings soar, 83 straight wins. This isn't a comeback, it's a renaissance. He clashes with Goldberg. He leads faction wars that blur fiction and reality. It's the most creative, unhinged, thrilling time in wrestling history, and Hollywood Hogan is at the core of it. But as all things do, it starts to unravel. Too many egos, too many swerves, too many factions within factions. And backstage, Hogan's influence is toxic. He controls storylines, refuses to lose, squashes momentum. The locker room resents him. Even the audience starts booing out of boredom, not hatred. The magic has gone sour. Hogan disappears. Lawsuits, injuries, silence. But history doesn't forget him. The hero became a villain, and in doing so became something even greater. A man who changed wrestling not once, but twice. It's 2002. Wrestling has changed. WCW is dead. WWF has become WWE. Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock now rule the yard. And then, a guitar screech. The red and yellow flickers on the Titantron. Hulk Hogan is back. The fans lose their minds. This isn't Hollywood Hogan anymore, it's the return of Hulkamania. And not just the music or the colours, but the feeling. He walks into a match at WrestleMania, facing the hottest star of the era, The Rock. Generations collide. It's one of the most electric matches in wrestling history. The crowd flips halfway through. The boos aimed at Hogan turn into deafening cheers. The Rock wins the match, but Hogan leaves the ring the real victor. The legend has returned. Later that year, at age 48, Hulk Hogan defeats Triple H and becomes WWE Undisputed Champion. He's ancient by wrestling standards, but it's a nostalgic fever dream, and the audience is eating it up. For a few short months, it's like 1987 all over again. Red and yellow merchandise flies off shelves. Hogan's face is everywhere, but the clock ticks. Time waits for no man, not even the immortal. Younger stars rise. Brock Lesnar flattens Hogan in a brutal squash, and quietly the legend is nudged out of the spotlight. But he keeps coming back. Tag matches, special appearances, Hall of Fame induction. Whenever WWE needs a pop, they hit the music. Hogan comes out, cups his ear, flexes the pythons, and soaks in the roar. In 2005, Hulk Hogan does something no one expected. He opens his home to the cameras. Hogan Knows Best becomes a surprise reality TV hit. Suddenly, we're not watching the 24-inch pythons. We're watching Terry, the overprotective dad, worried about his daughter Brooke's boyfriends, trying to keep his son Nick in line, navigating marriage with Linda. It's cheesy, it's weird, it's strangely compelling. But behind the scenes, the cracks are forming. A messy divorce, a car crash involving Nick, Brooke's music career tanks, and then, worst of all, the tapes. In 2015, a private sex tape leaks online, recorded without Hogan's knowledge. Worse still, the video includes a racist rant. The damage is nuclear. WWE immediately severs ties. His Hall of Fame profile is pulled. He becomes persona non grata. The very empire he helped build now acts like he never existed. Hogan goes quiet, ashamed, embattled, alone. The fallout from the scandal was brutal. Not just the tape itself, but the language, the revelation, the very human ugliness of it all. Sponsors vanished. WWE distanced itself. The Hall of Fame induction that once seemed untouchable was scrubbed from their website. For a time, Hulk Hogan wasn't just out of the ring. He was out of the history books. The court case with Gawker may have ended in a $140 million win, but in the court of public opinion, Hogan's legacy was hanging by a thread. And yet, even then, it never truly disappeared. Because Hulk Hogan wasn't just a man. He was a brand, a symbol, a ghost woven into the very fabric of pop culture. For fans who'd grown up watching him slam Andre, pose under arena lights, and command the ring with cartoonish charisma, it was hard to let go. WWE brought him back cautiously, awkwardly. He apologised, publicly, repeatedly. Some fans accepted it, others didn't. His appearances were met with a strange mix of cheers and side-eyes, a hero's welcome wrapped in moral hesitation. July the 24th, 2025, Clearwater, Florida. A quiet morning shattered by a 911 call. At 9:51 a.m., paramedics rushed to the scene. For 30 relentless minutes, they worked to revive him. But at 11:17 a.m., on a cold hospital bed, Terry Hulk Hogan Bollea was pronounced dead. He was 71. The cause, sudden cardiac arrest. No foul play, just a monumental life slowing to silence. In the days that followed, the world watched, stunned. WWE released a solemn tribute, calling him one of pop culture's most recognizable figures who redefined what wrestling could be. Icons like Ric Flair, The Rock, and John Cena shared memories, stories, and grief. Even critics paused to reflect. Love him or loathe him, you couldn't ignore him. His wife, Sky Daly, posted a quiet message on Instagram. I wasn't ready. My heart is in pieces. She'd held out hope. Despite surgeries, the cane, the whispers of pain and decline, she believed they'd have more time. His son Nick called him his best friend and mentor. "I'll honour you forever," he wrote. A simple promise to a man who, for better or worse, shaped a generation. Hulk Hogan was never just a wrestler. He was a myth in motion, a bodybuilder turned brawler turned cultural phenomenon. He launched Hulkamania in the 80s, tore through TV screens, crushed pay-per-view records, brought wrestling into living rooms around the world. The legacy? It's complicated. There were lawsuits, scandals, shameful words caught on tape, for many unforgivable, for others part of a larger human contradiction. But the symbol remained. The red and yellow bandana, the flex, the leg drop, the music. When he entered the arena, people stood. When he pointed at the crowd, they screamed. When he cupped his ear, millions leaned in. In death, as in life, he's still a force.